Hi there. Welcome to History in Retrograde. This is the podcast where we use the ancient art of astrology to help us better understand the past. I'm your co-host, Chandler O'Quinn, and joining me live via satellite is my mom. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Chandler. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Are you ready to begin another grand experiment?
I am. I'm very ready. Let's go.
All right, let's give it a whirl.
Okay, and I would also like to take just a moment to thank all of our listeners. Thank you so much for being there. I know we recently had a very nice freezing time in Texas, so I hope everybody's doing okay, and we're really glad you're here today with us.
Yes, thank you so much for listening, of course, in our wonderful home state of Texas and all around the world. Hope you are warm or cold, whatever you want to be, and are in a good, positive mood, and hopefully we can keep that going up for you, as we've got quite an exciting episode teed up for you today. And for those of you, if this is your first episode of History in Retrograde, welcome. The way that we do things around here is that in a moment I will give the astrological birth data of a random historical figure to my mother. Now, you, the listening audience, already know who this historical figure is. It is in the title of today's episode. I, of course, know who it is because I selected this person, but Mom has no idea who this person could be. So in a moment, I will give her the data necessary to create an astrological birth chart. That is the birth date, time, and location. She will input that data into the BAT computer, and out will come the astrological birth chart, where all the planets, moons, and stars were at the moment that person was born. She will then do her best to give us an initial reading of that chart, telling us what she can about the personal characteristics, the motivations of the person, the fortunes, all of that. And then I will reveal to her who our mystery history guest is, give a little background about the person, and then we'll discuss together how accurate the chart was at predicting what that person would do. So without further ado, let us begin.
All right.
This is a male.
Okay.
Born on the 24th of September.
Okay.
1905.
All right. Do we have a time?
We do.
Yay!
10:12 p.m.
Okay. All right. And where in the world?
The United States.
All right. And the town?
Humble, Texas.
Humble, Texas.
Mm-hmm. Harris County.
There we go. All right.
Now, one of the interesting things that we've got set up for ourselves today is that what I've just given you is one of the birth dates. There is another one.
Okay.
Now, what I believe is I'm starting off with the correct one, but I think that it would be interesting to take a look at the one that he said he was born on later on in the program, and see how different the charts would look, and see which one is more accurate. I have a feeling it's going to be this one.
All right. That sounds good. Okay. I'm
Whoa!
Game for that.
This
yes.
is a very dynamic chart.
Yes, it is. I'm so glad you're learning that, Chandler. That's so fun. Okay, so yes, this is a very dynamic chart. This is what's called a splash. And this person clearly has a very interesting splash of planets and houses here, all the way around their chart. Okay. Let's see. Well, okay. Very interesting. All right. Just looking through here. And, oh my. Okay. All right. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and start with the first house and work my way around. So this person has Gemini as their ascendant at 16 degrees. All right. And in their first house, they have Pluto, and it's in Gemini at 22 degrees. Very interesting having Pluto in the first house, because Pluto in the first house can make a person very powerful. It can also make them have a lot of death and rebirth in their image. Okay. They also tend to be sort of an all or nothing kind of person. They're either all the way in or they're out and they're done. There's no real medium place with people with Pluto in the first house. They really are about, literally, like if you were to put all or nothing into death and rebirth, that's kind of where they are, with the nothing being death and the all being rebirth. And when they're in, they are in. And when they're out, they're gone. There's just vapor. There's nothing left. They're gone. So that's interesting. And having it be in Gemini, this person probably should have been very talkative. Having Gemini in your first house would make you quite the communicator. I can't imagine that this person wouldn't be known for communicating or talking. Second house is Cancer is on that house cusp. And second house is belongings and material things and your fortune, how you make money, how much money you have, that kind of thing. And this person has Neptune in the second house and has Neptune at 10 degrees Cancer in the second house. Now, Neptune in the second house, Neptune is always sort of veiled or is creativity, illusion, also can be, addiction. But this person has Neptune in Cancer, Cancer is a very nurturing sign. And so somehow, I would say that either their fortunes come to them in a very creative way. It could even be a person who is psychic, who uses their metaphysical abilities to make a living. But I have a feeling that's not the case here. But maybe. Interesting. And however you look at it, this person is creative with finances. Neptune is also kind of dreamy, but creative, nurturing. Like this person would probably be fairly generous, I would think, nurturing with their finances. Then we come to third house, which is the house of communications. And this person that third house cusp is Leo, okay? And they have Moon at 10 degrees Leo and Venus at 27 degrees Leo. So they are not conjunct by degree, but they are conjunct by sign. Moon conjunct Venus in Leo in the third house of communications. Very interesting interactions with women. Women are going to be a big deal to this person. Uh-huh. And this person is a very good communicator with women because it's third house, and also could benefit from women communicating about him, perhaps. There's definitely a situation here with this person and women and communication. Okay, now, this person has North Node in Leo at 29 degrees, but it's falling in their fourth house. Now, whenever you have a 29 degree or you have a 0 degree, these are always very significant. So it makes it more. Having North Node at 29 degrees, which that 29 degree is sometimes known as the degree of sorrow, but definitely impactful in the fourth house. This is about, and in Virgo, well, the North Node is in Leo, but it's at 29, so it's right on the cusp of Virgo. So there is some Virgo aspects to this as well. And then this person has Mercury at 17 degrees Virgo in the 4th house. So much communication with this person. Lots and lots of communication and talking, because Mercury is communication. Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo. Okay. So now this person has Mercury in Virgo, which is, it's ruled by Mercury. And then North Node in the 4th house is something about communications about the home, the environment, the country, the house, anything that has to do with your home and your what you consider home. It could be your country, it could be your county, it could be your state. It's something about the home. Okay, then this person has Sun at 1 degree Libra in the 5th house. Now that is very interesting. Sun at 1 degree Libra. Sun at 1 degree Libra also gives you, this Virgo aspect, right? So this is very interesting. 1 degree Libra in the 5th house, which we know 5th house is entertainment, children, romance, also leadership, all of the Leo things. It's ruled by the Sun. So having Sun in your 5th house, which is ruled by the Sun, because the Sun rules Leo in the 5th house. So it is possible this person is in the entertainment, or I would almost say like a news person, like someone who brings information. This person has Scorpio on their 6th house cusp, but they don't have anything in that house. Then they have Sagittarius on their 7th house cusp, and they have Mars at 21 degrees Sagittarius in that 7th house. Very interesting. And then Uranus at 0 degrees Capricorn in the 7th house. This Uranus and Mars situation here in the 7th house, even though they're both in different signs, but here Uranus is at 0 degrees, which makes it more significant, which means this person could have had many partners, or could have had unusual, out of the blue things happen to their partners, or Uranus is, or they could have been involved with a very technological partner, someone who, or could have even, it could be as simple as being involved with an Aquarius, because it's 0 degrees Capricorn, but it's Uranus, and Uranus rules Aquarius. And then Mars and Sag, that is very fiery. Mars and Sag. And that Mars and Sag is trining this Venus in Leo, okay? And it's trining by sign the moon in Leo. So I cannot imagine that this person was not fairly a ladies' man. If they're heterosexual, I would assume they were a ladies' man. Having that Mars in the 7th house, very much the man in the partnership, maybe the leader in the partnership, but Sagittarius, Mars and Sagittarius in the 7th house. They would also need to be kind of, I would think, free, like not want to be held down. They need somebody who can accept that they're going to come and go, maybe. Okay, 8th house is Capricorn, and they have Chiron at 1 degree Aquarius there in their 8th house. So there's some karma with humanitarian aspects and humanity, legacy, wounded healer. Chiron is wounded healer. So some power or being known in large groups of people or general humanity. There's something going on there. I'll come back to that. Then ninth house, we have Saturn, but even though the ninth house cusp is Aquarius, we have Saturn at, well, that's true. We have Saturn at 27 degrees Aquarius. So people who have Saturn in Aquarius are destined to deal with groups of people. They are destined to be humanitarians in one way or another. And having Saturn in the ninth house in Aquarius with this Chiron in the eighth house in Aquarius at 1 degree, there's something significant about humanitarianism or how they deal with humanity or humanitarianism, or dark side would be totalitarianism. But I don't know. I don't think that's what it is, because I think this person is more of a communicator. So maybe communicating their philosophies over the airwaves. I do not know. But ninth house is travel, philosophy, dogma, religion, learning, teaching, all these Sagittarian things, right? And here this person has Saturn there. Their midheaven is 28 degrees Aquarius. So again, their career has to do with this communicating with humanity. And see how this Pluto in Gemini at 22 is trining this Saturn in Aquarius. It's very powerful. Interesting. Okay, 10th house cusp is Pisces. They don't have anything in that house. 11th house cusp is Aries. They don't have anything there. But 12th house cusp is Taurus. But they have Jupiter in Gemini in their 12th house. See how it changes right here to Gemini? So that is a lot of communication. We have Jupiter conjunct by sign, Pluto in Gemini, although they're in two different houses. And this is karmic because it's the 12th house. Somehow this person is supposed to communicate on a big scale to the masses because it's in Gemini. Is any of this making sense?
Yes. He certainly was involved in the entertainment industry, but there were he was involved in a lot of other things too.
Well, maybe it could be something as simple as air, like flying. I don't know. It's something that has to do with air because it's Gemini and Saturn and Aquarius. Maybe. Do you have questions?
Yes. So, can you get any sense of what their parents might be like?
Okay, well, I would think with Moon in Leo, their mother would have been fairly dramatic. Probably could be a very loving, sunshiny type of lady. She's a Leo, so she could be overbearing. I mean, it just depends on what aspect of Leo we were looking at, you know, and I'm not sure that the mother was a Leo, but this is how this person would have perceived the mother, right? And then the sun in Libra, the father possibly could have been much more easygoing than the mother. The mother would have been more intense, I would think, than the father. But with it being his sun is at 1 degree Libra, it's possible that the father could have been an educator or somehow very organized with maybe figures like an accountant or something like that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you've touched on this a little bit, but I'll just bring it up as a question. What is his relationship to women?
Well, I would think that this fellow really, really loves to be with women. And because having Moon conjunct Venus in Leo, just by sign, not by degree, but having them together in the third house, if this birth time is correct. Now, you're saying there's another birth time?
I'm saying there's another birthday.
Oh, well, that's different then, isn't it? Okay. Mm-hmm. Wow. That's interesting that someone would claim that their birthday was another day other than their actual birthday. Mm-hmm. But, okay, that's unique. So that could change also. But I would assume that this person, I mean, looking at this chart the way it stands right now, was very interested in women. His North Node is in Leo, conjunct his Venus, which means his purpose has to do with women. His direction has to do with women. And I would assume that he was fairly surrounded by women, possibly in his home. I don't know how, but maybe. And because you see this here is only 2 degrees separation between this Venus and this North Node. So, and then this Mars in Sag trining that. I think women liked him back. I don't think this person had a difficult time with women. He just might have liked really feisty women, like super feisty women. Maybe the women were independent. Interesting. Very interesting. Do you have more questions?
Yes. What would he do if he felt insulted?
I don't know that this guy. I don't know. This guy, first of all, he's got this. Now, with Pluto in the first house, if this is true, he could walk away like vapor. But I don't know that this guy would do that. I think this guy could possibly tear whoever it was to shreds with communicating. Like, there are people who don't have to raise a hand to you. They can just say 3 words to you and you're done. I would think that this person has that ability. But I don't think that this person would. This is a person who's very quick. Should be able to mentally outwit many people, I would think. Even though his sun is in Libra, which a Libra can be very sweet and very kind, he's got all this fire and air. I don't know about that. I don't think this guy would just, one way or another, this person, I keep feeling like this person would be able to literally destroy someone in the media.
And what is this person's relationship with finances?
Well, this person has Neptune in the 2nd house. So it is possible that this person makes money in a creative way, or it's possible that somehow money flows through his fingers. There's something with the illusion of money or creative way of making money. He has Saturn conjunct his midheaven in Aquarius, which his midheaven is his career, and it's in Aquarius, so that's ruled by Uranus. He could have a technological way of making money, futuristic technology kind of way, or I don't know, because he has his 6th house cusp is Scorpio, and he doesn't have anything in his 6th house, and he doesn't have any planets in his 10th house per this chart. So Does that make sense at all?
Yes, yes,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
Yes.
Okay.
What is his relationship with illness?
Again, you would look to the 6th house to see this. He has Scorpio on the 6th house. Scorpio is ruled by Pluto. I don't show, that there's anything here that looks really bad as far as like chronic illness or anything like that. But having Scorpio on the 6th house being ruled by Pluto could have a very odd relationship with illness or the consideration of illness. I don't see any specific, concern. Now, also, 8th house is ruled by Scorpio, and this person has Chiron in the 8th house at 1 degree, which is the wounded healer. So perhaps this person has some secretive situation with how he deals. I don't know. I don't really see anything in particular that, other than having Scorpio on the 6th, which I guess Scorpios could be. There are people who have an affinity for what illnesses are, and how they. I don't know. I'm just wondering.
Are you trying to describe like a hypochondriac?
Yeah, kind of like that, because it's very dramatic, right? But it would be like stuff that's more dark, like secret. I don't know. Maybe if I knew who it was, I could get closer on that. But there's nothing in the 6th house.
So, what is his relationship to work?
Again, he has Scorpio on the 6th house, and that would be work and health, work ethic. Scorpio on the 6th, he could be very dedicated to work, but also could be kind of like it's a game, because Scorpios love to play games and they love to win. So it could be something along that line. He does not have anything in his 10th house, but he does have his midhaven career is in Aquarius. So he could have a more unique perspective on his career and work. And it could be like an inventor, like futuristic way of looking at things, because it's in Aquarius, right?
Mm-hmm.
And his 10th house is in Pisces, which would make him creative, should make him creative. And Pisces is ruled by Neptune, so it could make his, it could go as far as having like hidden inventions that are futuristic.
Mm-hmm.
Could be. I don't know.
Okay. I think that that concludes my questions for this chart. Now, I think I would like to take a look at the birth date that he gave him, or he also told people that this was his birthday. I do not believe that this is his birthday, and most people do not. But just to give people an idea of how different it would be, just a brief little look into this.
Okay.
So he told people that he was born on Christmas Eve of 1905.
Really? I wonder why he would tell people that. That's so weird. Okay, so let's look. Would we go with the same birth time?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a male. And it would be the 24th. of December?
Yes.
That's such an odd thing to do. Okay, and it's, what'd you say, 1905?
1905. And
Okay.
he said he was born in Houston.
Oh,
so
okay.
that's the only...
But we're still doing
they're
10,
close.
22?
Yep, 10, 12.
Oh, 10, 12. Okay. And then Houston. Interesting. That's very weird. I'm interested. Very interested to know who this person is, why they would make up a birthday or not. And why would there be one birthday? That's very weird. Okay, so let's move on. Let's go back over here. Go here. And because this would make him a Capricorn. Well, this definitely changes things significantly. All right. So now, if we go with this birthday at this birth time, this person would have had Virgo rising. Okay. And do I have the, it's 1905, right?
Yep.
Okay. Interesting. It's extremely different. Okay. So would have had Virgo rising. See here? And nothing in the first house, nothing in the second house, nothing in the third house. They would have had all Sagittarius and Capricorn in their fourth house. They have Moon in Sag, Mercury in Sag, Venus in Sag, Sun in Capricorn, and Uranus in Aquarius at 4 degrees. So that is a bunch of Sagittarius, okay, in the fourth house, which is home. So that would mean that this person was very independent, and very connected to women in his house, his home, okay? This is where everything comes into the house and the home, all right? Now, this person would have had Sun in Capricorn at 2 degrees and Uranus in Capricorn at 4 degrees, all right? But Sun conjunct Mercury, conjunct Venus in Sagittarius in the fourth house. Lots of communication with women, all by degree, right? Within a 5-degree orb in this situation. Because we have Mercury at 15 degrees Sag, Moon at 19 degrees Sag, and Venus at 20 degrees Sag, all right? This person would have had Chiron in Aquarius at 4 degrees in the fifth house, which is ruled by Capricorn, okay? Which could make this person, because the fifth house was ruled by Capricorn, could make them a business person in show business, all right? Having the sixth house have the Mars literally conjunct. Mars is now in Aquarius, conjunct by degree Saturn in the sixth house, would make this person a very unique worker and very humanitarian, technological, futuristic, having to do with work, okay? Then seventh house is Pisces. There's nothing in the seventh house. Eighth house is Aries. There's nothing in the eighth house. But ninth house is the house cuspis Taurus. And this person would now have Jupiter in Taurus, okay? Jupiter in Taurus at 27 degrees in the ninth house, which would make them very, because Jupiter rules, Venus rules Taurus. So Jupiter in Taurus would be this person somehow, I would think they would travel, they would have lavish, they would travel, lavish traveling. Also very stubborn, in their philosophies and their dogma and their religion, but also benevolent in those things. So maybe they traveled a lot. This person would have their midheaven at 2 degrees Gemini, which would put their career in something that has to do with communication. But their 10th house now would have that Pluto at 21 degrees Gemini. And that would be a big deal for career in communications. Putting the Neptune in Cancer in the 11th house, making them seem able to have dreamlike or creativity with the masses, creativity with groups of people, nurturing through creativity, groups of people. This person now has North Node at 22 degrees, in 22 degrees Leo in the 12th house. So this person would be destined to be a prophet, could be destined to be a prophet, could be destined to be a leader, could be destined to be in show business, could be destined to be in any of those Leo things. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So does one of these make more sense than the other?
Well, I'm not seeing a whole lot of difference. I mean,
no, it's just changing the houses and changing these signs. Because
it seems like with both of these, the major characteristics of either future thinking or entertainment or women all seem to still be there.
Right.
What would you say are the major differences between these two?
Well, this has your North Node in Leo in the 12th house. So that puts your direction more. Before we had North Node conjunct the moon and the Venus, right? Which was more, your direction was women. In this situation, your direction is karmic, and it has to do with leadership, possibly entertainment, things like that. Okay. And in this situation, we have this 5th house is ruled by Capricorn, which would be very businessy in Leo things. This puts the Mars and Saturn exactly conjunct in the 6th house, which is very futuristic or humanitarian in their work. Okay. In the other one, they had Scorpio in the 6th house with nothing in that house. So it is different. This one has Jupiter and Taurus in the 9th house. This one has Pluto. And it would be very powerful career in communications, or, I mean, it could be air.
And Pluto was still in Gemini in the other chart.
Correct, but it's in the 1st house. See the difference?
Yeah. Yes.
See, this is very different. Where everything falls in the houses. You're still going to have the outer planets in the same, because it's not that much, it's a few months different. Yeah. This person in this chart is a Libra. This person in this chart is a Sag. Mm-hmm. This person is going to be way fierier, okay? More fire, more riding into the fray, more, all of this. And all of this here is in the 4th house, home, community, country. And this over here has these women in the 3rd house, which is more communications. This is all about communications. This super duper communications. This is more fire, power, Sagittarius. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know who it is, so I don't know how to compare the two charts. It's just really weird that someone would have a birth certificate or somehow say that their birthday is a completely different day, you know? Mm-hmm. And in this situation, you have Aquarius on the 6th house. You asked me something about how they would deal with illness. Well, here they have Mars conjunct Saturn in the 6th house. So it's possible, there could be unique illness. There could be lessons with illness. And and somehow, like discovery of illness, something, I don't know. It's very different. It is very different. Even though the outer planets are the same, because they're not, these two dates are not that far apart, they are in different places because of the way the first house falls and how everything is different. I might be able to get a better idea once I know who it is, if I know who it is, if it's someone I know or know of. But yeah.
Well, then I think we have come to the time where I'm going to give us a summary of our findings.
Okay.
Going to the first chart, the September birth date, powerful was the first word that you said. Death and rebirth of the image, all or nothing. Very talkative, a communicator. Fortune comes in a creative way. Creative with finance. Generous. Very interesting interactions with women. There's a benefit that comes with women talking about him. Lots of communication about the home, possible involvement in the entertainment industry, could be a news anchor, has many partners. Unusual things happen to partners. Partners in a technical matter. He could be a very much a ladies' man. Not want to be held down. Being known by humanity. Destined to deal with groups of people. Communicate to the masses. Could have something to do with the air, aviation, flying. Mother could be dramatic, could be intense, loving, maybe overbearing. Father was easygoing, organized, something to do with accounts. Loves to be with women, very interested in women. Purpose, destiny has to do with women. Surrounded by women. Women liked him back. He liked independent, fiery women. He could tear opponents away through communication. Mentally outwit opponents, destroy someone in the media, makes money in a creative fashion. There's an illusion of money. Technology plays a role with money, futuristic things. There's an odd relationship with illness and the consideration of illness. A secretive situation with how he deals with illness. A dramatic relationship with illness, a dedicated worker. Work can be a game to him. Could be an inventor. Could have hidden inventions, a futuristic mind. Would you like to know whose chart you've been reading?
Yes.
This is most likely the astrological birth chart of Howard Hughes.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. Wow. I do not know which chart is him. And do you have any background on why or how he would say that his birthday would be on Christmas Eve instead of in September?
Mm-hmm.
Why is that?
So Howard Hughes said that his birthday was on Christmas Eve of 1905. He got written affidavits from people in his family saying that his birth date was that, but there is no certificate. So we do have a baptismal record. In the baptismal record, it said that he was born on September 24th of 1905. When he told people and he got sworn affidavits. This happened in the 1940s. He was already a very wealthy, very powerful person, could very easily buy family members to say that he was born on Christmas Eve. It added to the allure. It added to everything about the man was a little off, a little odd, and to be born on Christmas Eve added another aspect to his story. He would make up all sorts of stories about his background. One of them being that his parents were not his parents, that or that his mother was actually his aunt, or all these different things to try and make himself more alluring and more enigmatic. So most likely, I think, just from a document standpoint, he was born September 24th.
Okay.
I think from our readings, this chart feels more right to me.
Okay.
It hits more of what the man was about. I was just intrigued at how similar it seemed. The notes that you were hitting were pretty similar for both of them. But for myself, I would think September.
Okay. Well, I mean, when you think about Howard Hughes and his weirdness, this Scorpio, the dark side of Scorpio, with his weird health situations and his odd behavior. So in this situation, his more obsession with women, right? Obsession with it in this, you know what I mean? Because if his North Node is conjunct his Venus and his moon by sign, but definitely conjunct his Venus, there's some obsession there, like not a normal way of dealing with women. He took this, and it can make him obsessed, which would be a natural, considering his direction is conjunct his Venus. There could be some situation with that, but in this and also knowing about the airplanes and all that. This
Yes.
Jupiter in Gemini is an air sign, right?
Mm-hmm.
That could make sense, and powerful, very powerful, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, well, I will. So we're gonna dismiss this chart then.
Yes.
Okay, so we're just gonna dismiss this.
Yeah,
one.
we're pretty sure he was not born on Christmas Eve.
Okay, so he is not he's not born on Christmas Eve. And then see, this midheaven in Aquarius makes him very technological in his career, and also air, right? And he has Saturn there. So some lessons to be learned, because it's by degrees. See, this is 27 degrees and this is 28 degrees in Aquarius. So Saturn at 27 degrees and midheaven at 28 degrees in Aquarius, which makes it very technological. I don't know why he wouldn't like his chart. I mean, I'm sure he had his chart done. I mean, I can't imagine he didn't, but
I don't think it had anything to do with the chart.
He just wanted to be a Christmas baby?
Yes, he just wanted to be born the same day as Jesus.
Okay, but no one knows for sure that Jesus was born on the 24th of December.
But he liked the idea of being a Christmas gift to the world.
Oh, okay, well, that's very nice. Okay.
So, Howard Hughes Jr. Was born, as I think we have borne out here, on September 24th, 1905 in Humble, Texas, to Aline and Howard Hughes Sr. Howard Hughes Sr. Was quite the scoundrel and roustabout himself. He had failed in a number of businesses. He had been run out of town in Missouri for trying to run away with a man's daughter, and he got into all kinds of trouble. Eventually got the luck of a lifetime to be in the coast of Texas when Spindletop went off. And so Spindletop was the first oil well in Texas, and Hughes Sr. quickly bought up a whole bunch of land around Spindletop for pennies and sold it just a few days later for hundreds of dollars. He then took all of that money and continued going into the oil business in Texas, was part of founding of Texaco, and then Hughes Sr. Developed the Hughes drill bit, which he did not sell, he leased to all of the different oil companies. So the Hughes tool company became one of the most massively successful oil ventures in the world. And all of this was happening while Howard Hughes Jr. was just growing up, and he would eventually inherit all of this great fortune. Hughes Jr., while his father was off getting all this success, spent a lot of time with his mother. And a lot of biographers and scholars would say that Hughes's mother was overbearing, was one of the reasons how he got all of the compulsions, and his germophobia, and all of these things were from his mother's smothering of him. And growing up, Hughes did not really enjoy the company of other boys. In the school, he was always around all of the girls. Didn't really want to roughhouse, didn't want to do the things that he liked talking and about pretty things with the girls. Some people thought that he was actually a sissy, but eventually his father would send him to Boy Scout camp, and he took on to the great outdoors just the same as even better than most of the other students. He just enjoyed the company of women. Early on, Hughes also developed and showed off his mechanical ability. By the age of 11, Hughes built the first wireless radio in Houston. By the age of 12, he had built the first motorized bicycle in Houston, and his mother actually made sure that he got his picture in the paper showing off his wonderful invention. He also very early on took to flight and aviation. He was fascinated by it. At an early age, at around 14, his father took him to the Harvard-Yale rowing race. And the father said, if Harvard wins the race, I will buy you anything that you want. And Harvard ended up winning the race, and Howard held his hand out. He wanted $5 so that he could ride on the floating airplane on the lake. And so that was the first time Howard Hughes had ever gotten into an airplane, and the rest of his life would be completely taken up with aviation and flight. By an early age, both of his parents ended up passing away. In 1922, his mother died from complications with a pregnancy, and just 2 years later, his father passed away. At 19, Howard Hughes went to court to become fully emancipated and to become complete owner of the Hughes Drill Corporation.
Wow.
And the judge saw that he was a capable young man and made him in charge of the entire company, and he became one of the wealthiest 19-year-olds in the world. He was going to school at Rice University at the time, but the company took up so much of his time, he ended up dropping out from school, and he actually married the grandniece of the founder of Rice University. He married Ella Rice, and they packed their bags and they went to Hollywood. While in Hollywood, Howard Hughes learned all about movie making. He would just show up at the studios and was fascinated by all the technical aspects of movie making. He would take apart cameras and put them back together, take apart projectors and put them back together. And all of the Hollywood people thought that this was just some dope with a whole lot of money who had showed up, and were happy to take his money, but didn't think that anything grand was going to come out of him. But he proved them all wrong. He started pouring money into pictures, and he had a couple of successes, he had a couple of flops, but then he wanted to make the first great aviation picture. He wanted to combine his two loves of film and flying, and he made Hell's Angels. He wrote, he produced, he directed, he did everything for this movie. And this was one of the most expensive pictures ever made at the time. It cost $3.2 million, which was quite a budget in the late 20s. And he bought airplanes for it. The airplanes, the fleet of airplanes that he had was bigger than most small countries. He was buying all these old World War I fighters, with fully staffed with pilots. He already developing his obsessive compulsive tendencies. They would do entire dogfights, and then he would just throw away that film because the cloud didn't look right.
Oh, no!
So they would have to wait for that cloud to pass and then do it again. So it was one of the most expensive shoots. It was one of the longest shoots. And then they almost got the film completed, and talkies came out. And so Howard Hughes decided, well, we're going to film all of the dialogue now, and we're going to have a microphone in there. We're going to have to get a new actress, because they had a Norwegian actress who didn't sound right. So he found this other actress and created Jean Harlow and put her into the picture. So
Wow.
that took another millions of dollars and time spent to do all of that. But it all paid off. Hell's Angels was one of the biggest pictures of the year. It made double its money. It broke all the records. It was one of the biggest films of Hollywood history up to that point. Howard Hughes continued in the Hollywood game. He would make some flops. He would make some successes. He always liked to push the envelope on what was allowed on screen. He made a film that was ripped straight from the headlines with Scarface. This was pretty much the story of Al Capone. There were, of course, liberties taken, but it was supposed to be the idea of, you know who Al Capone is in Chicago. Now we're going to make a film about his life. And it is quite an obscene picture for the time. The topics that they're talking about, the scenes of assault going on. There are obscene words and tons of violence. The Hays Code wanted to take minutes out of the film, wanted to strip it of different things, and Howard Hughes fought them, and he won. And he got to show Scarface and all of its bloody and obscene glory to everyone. And he relished the fact that the Hays Code wanted to take it away, because that made everyone want to go and see it. So that proved that he would want to try and continue to push the envelope, try and get in trouble, show the picture anyway, and then rake in all of the profits from all of the word of mouth of how dirty the picture could have been. Later on in his life, he would produce the film The Outlaw. This was one of the raciest pictures of the time, and it was the debut of Jane Russell. And he wanted to make sure that Jane Russell's assets were as on display as they possibly could be. He actually went and tried to engineer a brassiere, a new wired brassiere, to try and emphasize her assets even more. It was one of the most uncomfortable things Jane Russell had ever worn, and she did not wear it for the rest of the picture. And if you've ever seen Jane Russell, she didn't really need a whole lot of help in emphasizing that. But minutes of the film needed to be cut. The board did not want to release the picture, but it eventually did get released, and just with all the others, it made a grand success because it was quite a steamy picture for the time. He would also end up purchasing RKO. RKO was one of the major studios at the time, and it was not it was not in a good financial position, but it really didn't matter. He purchased it for about $21 million, and the Hughes Tool Corporation was making $50 million a year. So it didn't matter if RKO turned a profit or not. Howard Hughes was going to turn a profit. So he could just use this as his own personal playground to make whatever films he wanted. During the mid-30s, going into World War II, aviation was also continued to be a great passion for Howard Hughes, and he set records because of his ingenuity in making airplanes. So the H-1 airplane was the fastest plane ever built, and he insisted on testing every plane that he made. So he was in the cockpit when it broke the speed record of over 352 miles per hour. He made this famous flight from Burbank to Newark, and he made it in 7 hours and 28 minutes. I was actually watching a film reel, a newsreel at the time. The guy goes on, "It is only 1935, and already we have an airplane that can cross the country in 7 hours." He became famous for, and a great sense of pride for the country, that he was able to build this remarkable airplane, and kept pushing the limit on what airplanes could do. In 1938, he decided that he was going to set the world record for going around the world. And so he left New York, and as he was leaving New York in this airplane, he flew over Connecticut. He flew over his girlfriend, Katharine Hepburn's house, and dipped his wings near the house as a sign of good luck. Continued on his way, and he made it to Paris in 16 hours. That was half the time that it took Charles Lindbergh to get from New York to Paris. And then he just continued on. He went to Moscow, and then Alaska, and then Minneapolis, and then back to New York. And he did that in 3 days, 19 hours, and 17 minutes.
Wow.
Set the world record. There was a huge ticker tape parade, 3 days of celebrations, a great sense of pride to the nation of what he was able to achieve with the aviation that he loved so much. He eventually, he loved aviation so much and flying planes that at one point he went under a different name. I think it was Charles Howard, and pretended to be just a regular pilot for American Airlines. And he got away with it and learned so much about flying planes just by flying these commercial flights under a fake name. He would eventually have a much bigger role to play in commercial aviation when he he bought the controlling shares in TWA, and insisted on taking over all of the different aspects of TWA, and building bigger planes and making sure that the planes were pressurized so that the planes could fly higher and people could be more comfortable, and completely revolutionized passenger commercial air travel. While this was all going on, World War II was heating up, and Uncle Sam asked Howard Hughes for a number of things in regards to the war effort. One of them was to make a faster plane, so he started working on the XF-11. And this was supposed to be, another way of helping the war effort. They were also asking him to build a huge airplane that could fly directly from the ocean. So it was supposed to be the hugest airplane ever made, and it was supposed to be a floating boat, pretty much. And the idea behind it was that all of these carriers were being sunk by German U-boats. So if they had a floating boat, then when the U-boats came, they could take off from the ocean, get out of range of the U-boats, and then land back on the ocean. This would save countless lives. the hiccup in all this is that the United States did not want to use all of the metal that it would take to build the world's largest airplane, so they made him make it out of wood. And so this created a whole nother engineering problem of now you have to figure out the density of the right kind of wood, and each piece of wood has to be measured precisely so that you can make this humongous airplane to take off from the water. Needless to say, it caused such a problem that he had a complete nervous breakdown trying to get all the engineering right. He had to go out into the desert, and this was one of many breakdowns that he would have in his life. The breakdown and the engineering problems pushed the development of this airplane until after World War II had ended. The XF-11, the fast airplane I was talking about earlier, also the development was pushed off until after the war. This caused a number of problems with the U.S. government. Namely, there was a senator from Maine who believed that Howard Hughes was profiting from the U.S. government and demanded that Howard Hughes come in and explain himself. He tarnished Howard Hughes's name in the media, and Hughes then end up having to go up before Congress and tell them that not only had he not profited, he was losing money from all this, he was pouring millions of dollars of his own money into this, that he believed in the war effort, of course, he was not going to scam the American people out of this, and that he gave very heartfelt testimony about how that he had put his life and blood and sweat and tears into this thing, and that if this thing was not successful, he was going to leave the country and never come back. And while all this was going on, he actually got what the critics called the spruce goose out of the engineering hangars and got it to Long Beach, California, put it in the ocean, put it all together, and then while the Congress was on break, he decided that he was going to taxi the large boat plane to see that it could work. And while he was taxiing it, he figured, I'm going to go ahead and try and see if it can fly. And so he got one of the largest airplanes that was over I think the 300-foot wingspan, and he got it up in the air for 70 feet up in the air for 1 mile above the Pacific Ocean outside of Long Beach, California, and it was a great success, and everybody talked about how he had actually done it. He came back and showed the senator up for having said that he wasn't doing what he was doing, and the senator didn't even show up back to the testimony. He was so embarrassed he went back to Maine. Howard Hughes personally funded the campaign of his opponent, made sure that senator never got a job in Washington ever again. Now, the story behind the XF-11 is a little less triumphant for Howard Hughes. He did end up test flying it on July 7th, 1946. He was flying over Southern California, and one of the propellers stopped working. So he was trying to crash land the plane on the golf course in Beverly Hills. He did not make it to the golf course and instead crashed in a residential neighborhood. He took off the roofs of 2 houses and then completely demolished another house when the plane landed and engulfed the house in flames. Howard Hughes was able to pry himself out of the cockpit, and he would then end up having to be in the hospital for an extended stay, and this is where he developed a horrible dependency on painkillers. The doctors prescribed him a cocktail of codeine, Valium, and Epiret, which he would have to take for the rest of his life. While he was recuperating in the hospital, he was not comfortable in the hospital bed. He wanted to lean up, and he wanted to have his feet elevated, and so he developed the bed that raises your yourself into the upright position, lifts your feet up. He developed the modern hospital bed. So any hospital in the nation, if you've ever had to be in that situation and were able to lift yourself up by just pushing a button, you were able to do that because of Howard Hughes.
Wow.
Going into now, while all this is going on, need to talk a little bit about his Playboy lifestyle. So he was in Hollywood. He, of course, ended up getting a divorce from Miss Rice because he was out every night with every Hollywood star that he could muster up. So the list that he of the women that he was involved with: Jean Harlow, Katharine Hepburn, Ava Gardner, Rita Hayworth, Betty Davis, Elizabeth Taylor, Marilyn Monroe. There's one story that involves Ginger Rogers. He would go out, and of course money was nothing to him. He got a silver tray and loaded it with every type of jewelry possible: diamond bracelets, necklaces, rings, earrings, anything you could imagine, just overflowing from this silver tray, and offered it to Ginger Rogers, and she turned it down. She was not with Howard Hughes because of the jewelry and the money. She actually felt love and affection for him, which is very sad for her. Now, Catherine Grayson, on the other hand, was offered the same tray, and she took every single piece of jewelry off of the tray. He was in an extended relationship with Lana Turner, and Lana Turner thought, because Howard Hughes told every single one of these women that he was going to marry them, and Lana Turner believed him. In fact, went out and got all of her towels monogrammed HH.
Oh no!
And Howard Hughes saw that and said, well, you better go find yourself Headington Hartford, because Howard Hughes is not going to marry you.
Oh no!
One of these starlets was named Terry Moore, and she was very well known for having kept her virtue. And this was a particular challenge to Howard Hughes. So one night while they were on a yacht in Nevada, he wanted to take that virtue away, and she said, no, not only if we're married. So he got the captain of the yacht to marry them, and they then had their wedding night. And then Howard Hughes proceeded to find the logbook with that information and toss it into the lake.
Oh no!
Eventually, he would settle down with Jean Peters, another Hollywood actress, but this was really a marriage just to make sure that no one in his business could say that he was not of sound mind. They would have to actually convince her to sign papers as well. It was a way of protecting himself. Their marriage was not any better or worse than any of the other flings that he had throughout his lifetime. The last chapter of Howard Hughes' life, he went away from Hollywood. He actually sold his interest in TWA for a check that was over $500 million, which was the largest check ever made in American business up to that point. He took all of that and he went to Las Vegas. Las Vegas was, people knew about it, and there were certainly casinos, and there's this entertainment vibe about it, but Howard Hughes just took to it like a duck to water, and he bought up casinos. He would go in, he started at the Desert Inn. He got a penthouse up there, and the people of the Desert Inn liked it at first, but then with Howard Hughes's proclivities and the way that he lived his life, they wanted their penthouse back, and he decided to buy the hotel instead. So he holed up in the Desert Inn. He then bought lots of other casinos, the New Frontier, the Sands, several others, and really ran Las Vegas and ran Nevada. He would be on the phone to the governor. He would be on the phone to the legislators of Nevada to make sure that he got everything that he wanted going on in that town. Now, anyone who is somewhat familiar with Hughes in the last part of his life, because of the painkillers, because he was already suffering from obsessive compulsive disorder, but it was not diagnosed, and everyone kind of played into everything that he was doing instead of trying to get him help. So there were many periods where he would hole up either in a studio or in a hotel or in a house. He would screen movies. He would watch movies over and over and over again. A lot of times he would strip down completely naked. He would not bathe for weeks or months on end. Let his beard completely grow out, had fingernails that were, he wouldn't trim them, they were over 6 inches long. He would only eat candy bars and milk, and then he would only touch items with a Kleenex. So he would take a Kleenex, put it in his hand, and then go and touch a phone receiver. So he would live his life like this, and really most of the last 26 years of his life he would live like this. He eventually had to also start injecting himself with morphine, and there's stories of towards the end of his life there were broken hypodermic needles in his arm still. He really just completely fell apart, and a lot of the people around him enabled him to do that because they were still going to get paid no matter what. By the 1970s, there were a lot of people who didn't even think he was still alive, that he was just holed up. No one had seen him in 20 years, so they just got these phone calls and they weren't even sure that it was really him. So this sparked a controversy regarding if Howard Hughes was still alive. He ended up flying out. He would fly to the Bahamas for a while, fly to Mexico. He lived in London for a little bit. He did take one last flight where he was the pilot of the airplane, and while he was flying over London, he stripped completely naked, and then completed that flight, and then eventually he needed to go to Houston for treatment for some of his illnesses, and he died on the airplane ride to Houston in 1976. Howard Hughes, truly a remarkable person, a remarkable American, someone who accomplished so many things in so many different areas, with aviation, with the war effort, with his films, with commercial air travel, and there are lots of stories of him using that money for good. He was a generous person. Money wasn't really that big of an object to him, so he would just write a check to someone. One of the women that he was involved with later on had a child who was deaf and blind, and Howard Hughes completely funded all of the medical care that child would ever need for the rest of its life. So could be generous, could be kind, definitely had an affinity for women and collecting women, but an odd person who maybe if things were a different world could have gotten treatment and could have lived a better last part of his life, but in any regards a truly remarkable person.
Wow. That is so much. I do have to say, in this instance, I do agree with you with him having that midheaven in Aquarius, because all of the things that are in this chart, the one you chose, the one that is the
September 24th.
The September 24th chart, it does make a lot of sense, because having Jupiter in Gemini in the 12th house is, karma with huge. Jupiter in Gemini is too much, right? It's a lot. And then in your 12th house, and it being an air sign, and then Mercury, Hermes, the god that flies, right? With winged heels, very fast. And then having all that technology on his midheaven in his career, it makes so much sense that he was fascinated by technology and that he was inventing things,
Mm-hmm.
Having North Node in Leo in the 4th house conjunct his Venus obsession with women. I'm not sure what he was looking for, but possibly someone like his mother.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because here you have North Node conjunct Venus within 2 degrees, and then Moon in Leo. He was probably obsessed with trying to find someone like his mother. And these women weren't dominating him, right? Like his mother supposedly did. And then having that Mars and Sag in the 7th house, that's very freewheeling, and all this fire and air in his chart. It's so sad that it sounds to me like after he had the accident and they put him on the drugs, that the drugs just strung him out and he was done, right? So it wasn't necessarily that there was something in his chart that would say, oh, you're crazy.
Right.
I think that the accident, and it would be interesting to see where the aspects were on that day and how, perhaps Uranus or whatever played into something and caused that accident and then had him, just degenerate from there. But what a fascinating person, but also not such a nice person. Yeah. I mean, in his, pursuit of women and his need to dominate them, while at the same time he's looking for someone to dominate him, Yeah. The ones that he was the most interested in were the ones that didn't want to have anything to do with him. Mm-hmm. That were just, it's very, very fascinating, Chandler. Very good choice.
On our scale of right on the money to way out in outer space, I think that this one is, while Howard himself was way out in outer space, I think this chart is right on the money.
Well, thank you, Chandler.
That concludes this episode of History in Retrograde. Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to support the channel, we have all the links to our social media included in the description of the episode. We also have a link to our PayPal account. If you are feeling extra generous, you really like what we're doing here, any amount would really help us in growing the show and getting better equipment to produce a better show for you. And if you are listening on Apple or Spotify, this is a podcast all about stars, so we'd really appreciate a 5-star rating and a review if possible. Thank you so very much for listening. And as always, in conclusion, as long as your houses are in order and the stars are aligned, everything will be just fine.
Yes, and thank you so much to everyone who is sharing the podcast.
Yes, thank you so very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Salal Creek Studio.